Hey, everybody. Today is April 30th, 2020, and we're going to get an update from Chris Green on what's going on the management company side, but mostly focusing on hospitality to healthcare. Hello, Anthony Melchiori. Great to see you today.
Glenn Houseman, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I got to tell you, though, I'm having a rough week. It is just the weather has been kind of ick. And now that we're 8 weeks into this marathon over here, it's starting to, some days it's just really tough. And I've been thinking a lot about our talks about stamina, our talks about having to only look at the first 3 meters ahead of you and that sort of thing to try to keep the positive energy flowing here. You know what I mean?
I have had the same issues. And this is a marathon because we're 6 weeks in and we see more months and months, and I think this thing you're really not going to see much change for a long time. I think it's going to be incremental, and I mean we're going to be talking about this for a year. I mean, how do you open restaurants and hotels, and so and also I've realized I'm having some eye issues. My eyes are bloodshot for the last 3 days, and I don't know what that's all about.
I say cut down on the hardcore drugs, Anthony. You'll probably be a lot better off.
I tried. But actually, I've been maybe it's all those M&Ms that Chesapeake Hospitality sent me yesterday.
Speaking of Chesapeake Hospitality, it's Thursday, so it must be Chris Green, CEO of Chesapeake Hospitality. Chris, we absolutely love that you and your chairman Kim sent over us those delicious peanut M&Ms, but I only got 2 of them because 2 bags, two twins in this house, they both stole them. It was very sad for me.
Yeah, I figured that'd be nice. You guys mentioned that was your go-to food, so we're always listening to how we can serve our friends. And hopefully that served you both well.
Truly appreciate it.
Yeah. So
glad to be here.
Yeah, we've had you on. We've had you on every Tuesday and Thursday. And the last couple of times we've had you on, Chris, we haven't really been focusing on what specifically is going on in your business. We've gotten a little here, a little there in the context of the conversation. But what are you dealing with this week?
So you guys had, Tuesday you had Phil Cordell on from Hilton, did a great job talking about Hilton's Clean Stay initiative. And then you had Marriott on last week. That's a lot of what we've been working on is the return, right? So as hoteliers, we're always 30, 60, 90 days into the future working on our forecasts. So obviously revenue management and sales have been working hard, seeing what's happening in the 3rd and 4th quarters, but really ops has been where I spend a lot of time with our SVP of ops and our director of facilities, making sure that when we come back, we can, as a third party operator, I have a multitude of brands in my portfolio. So we have to figure out what's the best possible scenario across all of our hotels, our managed estate, to make sure that guests feel comfortable and safe getting back, because that's going to be part of the marketing effort to get them back to our assets sooner rather than later.
Right. Yeah.
The last couple of days, there's been a lot of talk about hospitality workers and how you keep them safe. And this morning, we're going to talk about it today at 3:00. We have a infectious disease specialist coming on, Dr. Ronald Primus. And there was a absolute heart-wrenching article in the New York Daily News about 43 hotel workers in New York City have passed away. 500 have been hospitalized. Think about that. There's been more hospitality workers just in the city of New York that has passed away than TSA workers that are on the front lines in airports. So that is exactly where companies like you and Hilton and Marriott need to be thinking, because think about that. They're in a very dangerous job, and 43 healthcare workers that passed away. I'm sorry, hotel workers that passed away. I can't. It's bone chilling.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. We had one associate that ended up on a ventilator, but thankfully has come through. So we've been very fortunate as a company. And I feel, our HR team went very early. We adopted all PPE very, very early. We took our corporate office out of the office extremely early and put everybody remote. So I think that, we've been very lucky, and my heart certainly goes out to those that are on the front lines. And we're talking about that a lot, Anthony. We're talking about how do we really not only protect them, but honor this effort that's been done, because it's going, we're talking about it here, but it is going a little unsung, the people that are in there still making beds every day in hotels, because we're still operating about 60% of our portfolio.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we're doing is I'm going to start next week. I'm going to launch a charity called USA Hospitality Strong, and those funds we're going to first time I'm announcing it, but the first level is going to be 100,000. We're going to try to get $100,000 of donations. We'll talk about it here on the show. I'd like to get you involved, and anybody that really has been on the show or is listening involved. And that money, 100% of the money goes to hospitality workers, because one of the things that we're hearing a lot about is restaurant and bar workers, which is so important, and we need to make sure they're protected. And there's a lot of efforts going on to help them. I don't see a lot of efforts going on to help the housekeeper or the houseman. So we're starting this next week. I'm having another call today about it, and we're going to try to generate $100,000 that's going directly to the hospitality workers.
Yeah, I think you should be able to do that for sure. I saw that Boston Beer, you probably saw that Boston Beer did the $2 million pledge to the bartenders and the bars and restaurants. So I think that it's interesting, because we are seeing in this time how we are all one hospitality industry, but we're also extremely fragmented, because you've got all the different constituencies in the business, the management companies, the brands, the owners, the debt holders. I mean, there's so many different competing entities, but we're trying to get everybody aligned for what's best ultimately for the outcome for those on the front lines. It's complex. I don't think people really know how fragmented our industry is.
Well, they don't, Chris. They don't. And we're seeing this now, because I keep seeing online, don't bail out airlines and hotels and cruise lines. And people don't understand that airlines and cruise lines are extremely different in the way they operate and function than hotels. I feel, of course, I'm preaching to the choir here. We all know this type of stuff, but I don't understand why on a national level we can't get that message across more clearly. People seem to understand that fast food restaurants are independently owned and operated. Why can't people just understand this too?
And one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the conversation into kind of the audience that's used to seeing me off of live LinkedIn on basically talking to hospitality people. And my publicist, we're talking more to the morning shows and things like that in order to get this out there, because I think it's really, really important for people to understand there is a difference. And we need to really explain that. And I think I have the platform to do that. So I haven't been comfortable doing that. We're actually today, as I was talking to you, I finished texting something, a new press release. So I think it's critical. When I got that, I got it from a friend of mine this morning, the article from Daily News, where 43 healthcare workers passed away. It literally stopped me in my tracks. And I immediately called my publicist and I said, I need to get in front of the national audience, because it's really important that people understand that housekeeper is on the front line just as much as any frontline worker.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Anthony, you accidentally said healthcare. We do mean hotel workers that have unfortunately passed away here. Really, really tragic. So I guess, Chris, you're spending a lot of time now thinking about the overall safety of your staff.
Yeah, did you see, I think Hyatt yesterday said they're going to have a dedicated hygiene manager on site, fully trained, certified hygiene manager on site, I guess at every one of the hotels. I didn't read the full release, but I mean, so this is really pushing into new territory for us. And I thought it was interesting on Tuesday when Phil was talking about the Hilton program and the increased cost. I think that there is going to be increased operational cost, and it's just going to be part of the new normal for life. So it's going to be fascinating too, because I don't think labor, I've heard some discussion that labor might be, because there's a glut of labor available, there might be downward pressure on wages. I just don't see how as an industry that's going to be capable when we're talking about putting people back in the front lines with this pandemic out there still.
Yeah, I think there's going to be increased cost. There'll maybe less FTEs in the hotel in general, but in housekeeping, there's got to be more FTEs. And I actually feel really strongly about that. I don't know how you're going to get around that, but I didn't want to challenge anyone, and I don't think that that's my place to actually talk about that, because I'm not running a hotel currently. But one of the things that I've noticed, Chris, in your demeanor in the last couple of weeks, your demeanor's changed. You seem to be more serious. You seem to be more like real focused on, okay, this stuff is getting real now. Am I picking up that vibe?
I think it's we talked about this, Anthony. You and I are fixers, right? We've always been fixers. We fix situations, and right now we still don't have enough information to fix the situation. I can work on a lot of different projects every day, forecasting or group sales, or what it's going to look like to have a F&B meeting in one of our hotels. But I don't know the answers yet because I don't know when travel is going to actually start returning. I mean, if you read 9 different news stories, you'll get 9 different opinions, and so for a planner and a fixer like me, it's really difficult.
I see it's wearing. I honestly, as a friend, I can see it's wearing on you a little bit. It doesn't really show up unless you kind of look at somebody for 2 days a week. But I can see that's frustrating, and it's becoming frustrating to me. Glenn and I have spoken about this whole. I say you need stamina, and but stamina is one thing, but we need answers. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you looking in on me. It's interesting. We had some. I'm talking to all of our departments one-on-ones, and we're not talking about business. I ask them questions about how they're doing, how their family's doing, how's childcare going for them, whatever they've got going on. And I've noticed that a lot of the departments have been very somber, I would say, because we're people of action. If you're in this hospitality business, you're used to being going nonstop. And even though we're trying to make work with forecasts and budgets and everything else, it's not the same. And I think that's wearing on people, Anthony. I really do.
Well, I think what's happening is you're probably working on meetings that you don't know if will come to fruition. If what you're talking about is actually making sense in new reality, and the thing that has been just really in the forefront of everything is the safety of our employees and our guests, and that's why we're going to talk about that more today at 3:00. And I'm going to coming up with a top 10 list that I may even ask your opinion on. But I think that's really the most important thing that we can tell our traveler. So, Glenn, are you still here?
No, I decided to go to the Bahamas there for a minute because that'll be my happy place. But actually, Hyatt's plan is called the Global Care and Cleanliness Commitment, and they're doing an accreditation process with the Global Bureaucratic Advisory Council, and they're going to be introducing the GBAC Star accreditation through a cleaning, disinfection, and infectious disease prevention program. So that's the status with Hyatt. So I think we're at the point now where we're seeing all of the major companies finally getting it together, figuring out what their go forward plan is on this particular issue that's out there. So we heard Marriott, we heard from Hilton, now we're hearing from Hyatt, and I guarantee that there's going to be more and more coming.
Choice, Best Western, everybody will be. I mean, they have to. I mean, if you look, I saw American came out yesterday with from their chief commercial officer, their plan. And, Delta's already been out. Southwest has been out, which I expected them to be out early. United, I saw. American was a couple weeks later. I think they're probably still trying to figure out what's the best scenario for them. And I think it's going to be the same way in the brands, in the hotel brand space, to see which ones are going to stick.
I want to see the first person that actually comes out. You said Hyatt's going to have a hygiene manager. I want to see the first person that promotes somebody to chief hygiene officer.
I think you'll see that at the major brands here soon. I think that Marriott and Hilton will probably have somebody.
It'll probably
an epidemiologist
it could be a doctor, an infectious disease specialist. It just makes perfect sense. And because one of the things I'm seeing is in some of these procedures is you're doing one thing, but the one thing you're doing is causing another problem. And I won't go into it in detail, but I've read enough where it's like, okay, so then what do? You just clean that or just fix that, but then you just contaminated the thing that you're cleaning it with. What are you doing with that?
Right.
Where are you putting that? Are you just putting that on your luggage cart? Like where your housekeeping cart? Anyway, so we can talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Chris, any final thoughts from you today about what's going on in your business?
I think Anthony's hit the nail on the head. We're going into a quiet period. I think May is going to be the lowest revenue on the books in a long, long time. April was bad, but May's going to be worse.
Why?
We're going to
run.
Huh?
Why is May worse than April?
It's just gotten because we had a little bit of a bump of some like infrastructure moving around, Amazon and shipping and all that. But I've seen that slow down. I've seen us bumping around 15% flat for the next 4 weeks, where we had a couple of weeks where we were 18, 19%. So I think it's going to be the longest month in the history of hotel operators.
So can I ask you a direct question? Because you've been really transparent and direct.
Yeah.
Are you getting to the point where you're going to have to furlough some people that you didn't want to furlough?
Corporate people?
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh,
We're
wow.
planning we made our plan on March the 13th that we were going to make it through to the first quarter of 2021, and that's our commitment. So
Wow. That is amazing. I'm shocked, to be honest with you. I thought one of the things in your demeanor is that you're literally about to drop the bomb in a couple of days, saying you're gonna have to let some people get furloughed. So that's
No.
just a tribute. That's just a tribute to really good management.
Hey, Chris, before we get moving on to our next segment, I do have one question coming. How pushy difficult have owners/lenders been recently? Do owners understand the lower EBITDA, or as we've been seeing on funny memes, EBITDA with the C? You know, before
the one that Greg Friedman put up. So
yeah.
Our owners have been great. I mean, we are a high communication organization. We let them know what was happening. We moved that's why our corporate team's been so busy. We moved all our accounting team to basically 8-week cash flow forecasting that comes out every single week for all of our owners. We have owner meetings every week. They all know exactly what's going on. So they're in a bad spot, and we're doing everything we can to support them. And we felt like all these years we've been doing business with them that we were able to support them through this time, even with low revenues. And that, in my opinion, that will be remembered after this is over. So that doesn't mean that their situation is not super tough. And I think of all the lenders, the CMBS lenders are obviously being the most difficult because they're hard to get a hold of. They don't have the flexibility that the regional banks do. So that's what we're trying to help. But really the toughest communicator has been like the CMBS special servicers as far as getting access to them and getting use. But our clients have been great and really thankful, quite frankly, for what we're trying to do as a company.
Excellent. Well, that is really good news. Chris, thank you so much for being here again with us.
Thanks, guys.
Chris is here every Tuesday and Thursday, so we will see him again real soon. Anthony, that's really interesting following this story with him, seeing what he's up to on a daily basis. And I really appreciate how open and honest he's been with us. So we can
he's like our lab rat.
Yeah, he really is, but much nicer than that. All right, so as Anthony indicated, today we're doing a special show at 3 p.m. on all of our channels today with infectious disease specialist Dr. Ronald Primus. You may remember him. He was the first person that we interviewed in this live series of shows. I think it was around March 7th, March 8th-ish or something like that.
We were in his office.
Yeah, we went to his office. That was literally the last time I was outside my house other than the essential supermarket type runs.
Yeah, me too.
I remember us going afterwards to a hotel and sitting down and having a conversation and speculating on what was going to happen next. And even during that conversation, I'm not sure we could have expected what happened next.
Yeah, and we were sitting at the restaurant. It was kind of empty, and you saw things starting to empty out. And then literally, I think a week later, yep. I saw a picture of the executive team in the lobby saying, with a heavy heart, we're closing the hotel.
Yeah.
And a week ago, we were in the restaurant, and we were putting ourselves at risk without realizing it. And I remember being a little bit cautious and we're careful, but I couldn't imagine with everything I know now that I would have made that decision to go to his, but that was 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. All right. So now one of the things that is really important for us here on the show is help you all find a path forward. And I think we've been doing a great job at helping you find a path forward in the hospitality industry.
If you do say so yourself.
If I do say so myself, it's funny. I was just going to say, if you don't think we're doing a great job, let us know in the comments section and I will disagree with you and call you names because that's how we do things on the internet. Right. So what I do want to do is we're going to talk today about how a lot of folks in the hotel industry in the last 2, 3, 4 years have been finding success in the healthcare business. And now at this moment of time is an inflection point for a lot of you folks out there. So let's get into talking about going from from hospitality to healthcare. All right, welcome, gentlemen. So welcome to the Gauntlet. Today, we've got a great group of people, Anthony. I'm excited. We've got Ken Honeycutt with Samsung Healthcare. We've got Jonas Tanenbaum with Samsung on the hospitality side, and Mr. Stephen McKay. You've seen him before. He's been on our show with Almo. Check out that great vendor show that we did with him a few 3-4 weeks ago. Thank you guys for being here. Ken, the healthcare industry seems to really be, seems to be a safe place for folks to go into when it comes to investors. But let's talk a little bit about actually what we mean. What is the healthcare industry? Because it's a whole lot more than doctors' offices and hospitals.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for asking. Obviously, healthcare is comprised of the hospitals themselves as the anchors within the health system, but they may own ambulatory surgery centers, physical therapy locations, rehab centers, urgent care clinics, visiting health nurses. So it strikes across an entire continuum of care within the U.S. market.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Jonas, how are you seeing the healthcare industry? I know you're a hospitality guy, but it's got to be interesting coming closer to your partner Ken over there at the Samsung family to be focused on that industry as well.
Yeah, actually, Glenn, we've been focused on the healthcare industry for a better part of a decade.
Oh, awesome.
And that falls under our overall umbrella of hospitality. And in many ways, the reason for that is because the technology that we use to differentiate our commercial TVs for hotels share a lot of the same technology that we deploy in the healthcare setting as well. And without going into a lot of the detail, basically it's centralized control, and it is the ability to put a customized user interface like we need for the guest in the hotel room. Same thing for the patient in a hospital or healthcare setting. And there's a couple of unique features that differentiate a part of our lineup that we call healthcare TVs. There's a lot of commonality between the engineering and the specialized commercial features for healthcare TVs as we do for hospitality TVs. So we've been serving that traditional hospital market for a better part of a decade, and we've enjoyed quite a bit of success there.
What's been the biggest challenge now that, a lot of instances you can't even go into the hospital with your sick patient, whether it be your grandmother or a friend, you can't even go into the hospital. Has there been technology challenges you've been able to overcome through different systems? Anyone? That's a tough question.
I can take that one, and I'll let others add color commentary to
Thanks,
it.
Ken. Steven will just stay there and continue to just look good,
I don't know about that. So we're working with various manufacturers of thermal cameras that could be placed on either tablets or preferably kiosk, where guests or visitors coming into a healthcare institution are going to be stepping up to it, and they will take their temperature, and there'll be a printout on a pill and stick label that would give them authorization to pass into the facility if they do in fact have no temperature, exhibiting no signs. That's something that's currently in progress from our development side.
Great.
Right. Interesting. Jonas?
I was just going to add to that. I mean, in every walk of life these days, commercial, whether you're walking through an airport, a mall, a library, a shopping center, digital signage is everywhere. And the ability to communicate with customers, guests, patients, whoever that target customer may be in that facility. Our division, our Samsung display division, is in high demand right now because of the need for communicating. So whether that is, as Ken just eliminated, more of a technical solution, or it's just the ability to give updates on patient status, or the status of where you are in a certain queue, or to be able to have customized and curated content for a patient, using display and content management and distribution of that content to your target customer, from quick serve restaurants to healthcare to hospitality. All these verticals are realizing the benefits of utilizing that type of display technology to help have a better guest or customer or patient experience.
It's interesting. I was just talking to a client yesterday, and we're talking about his protocols. And he said, "I'm going to put up signage." And I said, "Don't do that." I said, "Put up, TVs with put up computers, or just make it look more not only professional but more permanent, where it's just like it was always there. Like, don't make it look like there's a sign that you just put and you just typed in and with handwriting, because that looks more, for lack of a better word, more serious and more urgent than and less professional. Whereas if you just put something up, it's like, oh, okay, that just makes sense, and that's just how we're used to seeing things."
That's right. And the fact is that the nature of that message, in the world we live in, the data-driven world that we live in today, the nature of that message likely will need to change constantly. All right, whether that's changing the price of a burger from $12.99 to $13.99, or relevant patient information, or traffic flow information, or even in some cases just creating a certain ambience or mood or setting in a hotel lobby or in a waiting room area. You're right, Anthony. The ability to be able to adapt content to changing needs, changing environments is very pervasive right now.
Well,
And,
I went to the first time I've been out to get takeout, first time in 6 weeks. And I promised my kids, who are college kids, all right, we'll do from our favorite place, we'll go to takeout. I'll pick it up and I'll bring it home. And we sanitized it and put it in the oven, did all the things that made us feel comfortable. But when I walked in, first of all, they were unbelievable. Everybody had masks and gloves and 6 feet, and nobody can come in. Everybody did everything perfect. You didn't have to touch the door. The door was open. It was an amazing experience. But then they had it on the television. They had kind of what you needed to do to enter this facility, and as opposed to a handwritten sign. It made a difference. It just looked more professional, and like they're thought leaders, and I'll use it again. I promise my kids will do it again.
Right.
And I think it's critical. And I didn't even think about that until the show, that how that made a difference in the way I thought about the establishment.
One of the things, if I may, Glenn, just respond to Anthony's point, is that certain industries are realizing this change and adopting digital signage quicker than others.
Right. Yeah.
So, for example, the quick serve restaurant or QSR industry, I think, has been one of the more pioneering and industries that has been able to incorporate digital signage, whether that's at a menu board or a drive-through, where we're having great success. Back to healthcare for a second. Healthcare typically focuses on taking care of their patients, taking care of their people, and some of this technology in the healthcare space, I think, is just now, the ball is really starting to gather momentum. And I think certainly the industry has understood that TV at the foot of the patient bed needs certain features and technology to serve that patient. But now in other areas of the business, and I'll let Ken expand on this perhaps, particularly in areas like rehabilitative care, senior housing, and other verticals within the healthcare space, they're starting to realize, we can have a much more effective, satisfying, and cost-effective patient experience by utilizing this technology to help assist in terms of informing and making for a better overall patient experience.
Right. And this is all really interesting, because the healthcare industry is one industry that's kind of shielded from the ups and downs that we experience in our overall economy. And there's a major demographic shift that's also happening in our great country over here. People are getting older. People are acquiring more. People's tastes and desires are changing, and it's opened up a whole new world for communities that are geared towards our aging population. And when I say aging population, I'm starting to talk about like people our age, guys, right? Because I'm going to be hitting 50, but there's a lot of communities that are now being designed for that 55 and plus person. I'm also seeing a lot of communities being designed not just for regular homes, but also some with some assisted living attached to it. And then some other parts of it include even more care. And some of these communities that I've seen out there even go through all the way to hospice and nursing home services as well. So it might sound a little weird that you move into one and then you go from building to building to building to grave. But in the purposes of this conversation, it's really to understand that there's a lot of great opportunities out there for folks that have invested their time and energy and money into the hotel industry. The healthcare industry wants so much to be like the hospitality industry. And Stephen, I know you're seeing this out there. You're seeing more designers than ever go into that side of the business. You're seeing more investors go into that side of the business. And you're seeing your community of resellers really start to understand this notion and try to make those connections between healthcare and hospitality in a more meaningful way, right?
Yes, I totally agree. Over the last number of years, obviously the hotel room and hotel lobby has been, taking up most of our time.
Mm-hmm.
And in these times of COVID, we may have seen a downtick in maybe the hotel rooms and so forth, but the amount of inquiries we're getting regarding healthcare is incredible. And that's why we work very closely with with Jonas and Ken on looking to listen to what the customer's asking for and then presenting that to Samsung and coming up with a solution that will help the industry overall. That's where we find that we can facilitate best, because Samsung can't take all the inquiries from the customers themselves. So we gather all this information, we meet regularly, and then we discuss certain options. And Ken touched on a couple, handheld devices, getting the messages across to people without having to be there in front of them. And Anthony, you are totally correct. If you're putting in something now that's signage, put in a permanent signage piece that's going to last you a long time, and you'll get a lot of use out of, versus the handwritten. So that's mainly why we're here, and we just can't thank Samsung enough for all the development that they're looking to do.
What's the one thing that people are asking for that they weren't asking for before? That's kind of across the board. What's the one thing that kind of everyone's asking for?
So touchless society is one of the biggest ones, Anthony. We get a lot of inquiries about touchless. So if you're talking about a touchless check-in, shall we say, and then the cleanliness of the room and messages being put across into the room for the guests, and that's where with Samsung's Reach, for example, and messaging service, they can use the TV for that. So it's being the cleanliness of the room, the facility, directions on the hotel, and touchless.
So let me ask you a question. If and this really isn't about technology. Well, it is about technology, but it's more about the traveler. So if you're walking into a hotel room, and on the television, usually it's like, hey, welcome to Vegas, and you can do 17 things, and you can get your marijuana down the block, and everything is right there for you, right?
Well, say what down the block?
So when you walk in, one of us, and I'll point to the person that may need that, and but anyway, my point being is when you walk into the room, is it like I would like personally to see a video kind of like what Marriott put out and other people put out and Cintas put out with someone with a electric static gun with the chemicals. I want to see how they clean my room, not so much my specific room, but what their cleaning procedures is. So being on the television, do you see going forward that the first thing you see going on a TV is how we cleaned your room, Jonas?
It could be as the we give that level of flexibility and choice to the owner or property manager. So if that's the message that you want to present to your guest, and that's the type of content, like I alluded to earlier, the messaging changes depending on the environment, the partnership, and other. Normally, it's just about what amenities do you want to present to the guest. But if that's the message you want to send, whether it's an image, video, steps that the hotel has taken through one of our content management solutions called that we refer to as Reach, absolutely, you can update that message.
I'm personally asking hotels to do that. I think that is necessary. I mean, I am like, this is like, if you're an independent hotel and you don't have a big brand behind you, I think I want to know. Sure. I don't want to be inundated throughout my stay. I want to know as soon as I get there. Okay, and then make a decision for myself. Just kind of like we do when we go to hotels. We immediately know if we're going to be comfortable in this hotel or not. So same thing, whether it be a nice guest service agent or whether it be clean windows or whatever, we make an assessment way before we get to the room whether we're comfortable here. So as soon as I get into the room, if I get that messaging and then the messaging goes away and I never see anything else again, I'm comfortable. I made a decision. I'm staying. And now it's up to me. It's another conversation, but this is not for this show, that it's my personal responsibility. But Stephen, did you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to quickly add to that, Anthony. Yes, I agree with that whole video thing, because we're working with companies on cleaning kits, and you talk about the electrostatic, the fogging machines and so forth. And with that, we ask for videos, to your exact point, so that these videos could be shared on the TV, shared with the guest, showing this is the extent we go to clean your room. So that's exactly to your point. We're working and saying, okay, what depth do the hotels need to know and have information shared, and what resources can we use to share that information? Hence the
and are those guns available? Those electronic, because I've
electrostatic are very tough to get. No, they're more expensive, and they're very, very tough to get. The other ones, the other guns are okay. They just leave a little bit more residue, so there's just a little bit more wiping that's needed, but they do a very good job. So I wouldn't hold off if you're wanting to to be a little bit ahead of the game. You can always add an electrostatic one later because a normal fogger isn't that expensive. So they're tough for now. So
I'm personally giving you a challenge. Can you get one for me, and I'll pay for it? I need one.
An electrostatic or a normal?
Yep, electric static.
Done it. I will.
Awesome. I love that. And just to make a little show note, tomorrow we're going to be featuring one of these products on the show. So you're actually going to get to see it, understand how it works, and we're going to be creating that de facto video in a sense, so all of you can have a level of comfort with this brand new technology that we're all starting to learn about today. One of the things that I'm seeing in the chat room, guys, over here is people are really talking about that touchless technology, and they're thinking about it in ways that I hadn't considered before. Touchless valet tickets, for example. That's an interesting idea. So I think what we're talking about here, and which is why I love you folks over at Samsung so much, is you don't rest on your laurels. You're always looking to the future and finding new ways to develop new and interesting products that are coming out there. So that's pretty good. So Ken, when you're looking at healthcare, what are some of the stuff that you're currently thinking about now that is going to better address the needs that have just kind of popped up on the global consciousness over the last couple of few months?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that what I'll start with is that we all share the same common theme. Our guests or our patients want the at-home experience, whether you're in a hotel or whether you're in a hospital bed. Patients think that they're in a hotel. They want the amenities of a hotel. So what takes place is we look at the at-home experience, and then we look at about a year to year and a half later what's taking place in the hotel or lodging space. And as a lead indicator into healthcare, we look at the hospitality space for what those amenities are going to be. So voice happens to be all the rage right now with regards to hospitality. I anticipate seeing voice control anything, building management controls, TV controls taking place within the healthcare setting. Obviously, telehealth, telepresence, telenursing is going to be part of that.
So listen, I'm sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a note when you said people think they're in a hotel room when they're in the hospital. I was in a hospital. I had surgery 2 years ago. And I remember all I said to my wife was, I don't care about anything else. I want my own room. So I asked the person that came in, my advocate, and I said, is the hotel room across available? And it was. But she looked at me and she goes, did you just call that a hotel room? I said, well, it's a long story, but yeah, I did.
That's great. I did want to call to the comments of what Ken was saying, talking about creating more of a hospitality experience in there. And this is why the design community out there is looking for healthcare facilities to start to get into. I know all of you out there, a few minutes ago, I was talking about these brand new types of properties that are coming up. I have seen so many in just my neighborhood area, but then the next 10, 15 miles from me, suddenly appear. And I know all of you out there are seeing that too. So for the investment community out there, look at that as proof positive that this is going to be a huge growth sector for you in the future. So I just wanted to get that bit out there.
Yeah, and I just want to add, especially given the economic and health crisis that we're under right now, when we take a look at our total hospitality portfolio, the one part that's remained very robust is the new builds. So whether that's a new build hotel or a new build cruise ship or a previously planned CapEx spending on a healthcare facility, those projects are generally carrying forward as planned. And it's one other thing I'll add to that, and Stephen can attest to this, is we expected, based on the realization of COVID, that there was going to be a spotlight put on telehealth, the ability to use technology to work with patients, even though they're not physically in the healthcare setting itself. We're seeing an immediate and much sooner than expected rise in demand for healthcare TVs, literally over the last 6 weeks. I thought we'd realize the business benefit of it perhaps in the fall or later. It's happening right now. We're seeing increases of, in some cases, 2 to 3x of demand for those healthcare products right now, immediately. So again, for those who are in that business or contemplating that business, the message is new builds carrying forward. Demand for healthcare type products is happening right now as we speak. And I think for those renovation projects where the the spending might lag a little bit, it's going to happen beginning in the second half of this year and carrying into 2020.
And what is that?
21.
What is that technology? So if you say that technology for the doctor for healthcare to be able to telecommunicate, what is that? What does that mean? What does that look like?
So in our lineup right now, that's reflected in our 693 healthcare series. That's a specific series of models available in multiple screen sizes that are specifically intended for a traditional hospital or healthcare setting. They have interfaces for pillow speakers. They have certain UL listings and registration, certain channel mapping, and other firmware features that make them perfectly suited to slide into a hospital or healthcare setting and be very compatible with that environment right out of the
So
box.
I can show my X-ray, whatever I need to show. It's just like being in the office.
Ken, I'm going to let you cover that. It's your baby. Go ahead.
So that's the goal, right? The goal is to be able to pull up PACS and radiology images. I would tell you that requires some additional work and systems integration. We certainly have the capability, but it's certainly, I would call it a future state rather than a current state environment.
Got it.
But delivering,
Steven?
I think for delivering messages and things like that to the guest, rather than having someone have to do it in person, the screens could be used for that and transfer information across to guests, so that again you don't have to have the in-person in-room. It could be just sending a simple message saying the nurse or doctor will be in to see you in 10 minutes, or something like that. Just
You guys have robots yet?
Yeah. Well, there's robots out there in the hospitality industry, but I don't know about the success rate of that. and getting them HIPAA
No,
compliant.
Glenn, just so you know, you think Glenn's flesh and blood, but he's actually a robot.
That's right.
No, watch this. I'm gonna push a button. Glenn, speak.
Hello, Anthony. You are the best host ever.
I think just, if I can take 60 seconds or so. Recently, I spent a lot of time in a New York hospital. Family member went through a procedure, and of course, I'm in the business, so I'm always looking around, no matter where I am, what types of displays, or how is technology contributing. A little bit of a geek that way. I can't help it, but literally, as I made the journey through this healthcare procedure with a family member, it was amazing how New York Presbyterian had incorporated technology, predominantly Samsung technology, I'm glad to say, to keep me and those people involved with that healthcare situation informed by using technology. So a couple quick examples. When the surgery was underway, there were large format display monitors in the waiting area giving updates on status of my patient's surgery. Okay, so I could stay informed there.
Interesting.
And in the recovery area, in the intensive care unit, there was a touch screen. Now, years ago, that might have been a whiteboard with marker, a touch screen for family and for care workers to provide personal information about my son who had undergone the surgery. There was a healthcare TV at the foot of that bed that had an interactive screen. There was a Samsung tablet in a basket behind the bed that gave information on certain allergies or medications. When I walked out into the nurses area, there were a desktop monitor. There was large format display giving patient status for everybody on the floor. So literally everywhere I went through that journey, there was technology that was informing the patient, family member, the healthcare worker, and it was really like, wow, this is really the living and breathing epitome of how we can help everyone involved make that a better experience by using technology. And I just thought I'd relay that because I've been in other settings where those amenities might not be present and things start to break down.
Right.
The goal is to try to use this to be able to help the worker, the patient, the family member, whoever is involved with that journey.
Right.
Similar, I'll just add,
Please.
again, some of these technologies, when you walk into a hotel, okay, and again, we're trying to bridge the gap here a little bit between some of the common technologies between the two. When you walk into that, what's happening in that lobby? Where is my meeting? Wayfinding behind the front desk, flight information, mood setting, information in the room. So in other words, some of these things that have been kind of as Ken mentioned, using technology to create a welcoming and a residential-like experience in the hotel certainly we can apply that to a hospital setting and some of the newly high demand areas of healthcare, Glenn, that you mentioned before,
right?
Senior living and so on, that have been perhaps a little slower to adopt these things. But I think there's a huge business opportunity for us and perhaps for some of your viewers to say we want to take that message out to the marketplace.
Right. Ken, I don't know, because you're in the healthcare side of things, I'm on the hotel side of things. We haven't had as many interactions as I would like. So I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but let's give it a shot. Okay. So here's the question. How do distance medicine tech options address HIPAA privacy requirements? Is that something that's in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, so as long as we're not displaying two pieces of information about the patient, we're HIPAA compliant. So the minute we start displaying two pieces of information on the same screen about the patient and or their condition and or their location, we become out of HIPAA compliance. So as long as we're only showing one, and it could be first initial and last name or latex allergy or something like that, we're good. So I would tell you that that's the HIPAA compliance component.
Right. So that way you avoid saying Glenn Hausman has 1,000 diseases and should be very embarrassed.
So what you're saying, just so I'm clear, what you're saying is when two pieces of information to identify the client, not like if there could be 3 or 4 different things about the client's diagnosis on the screen, but you're talking about identification of the client.
Personal information about the patient on the particular screen, and it could be on the patient room TV, it could be on a digital whiteboard. We actually have displays that we can place outside the corridor that, for example, shows what room that is, what the nurse is, who's on staff or on shift, who the attending physician happens to be, those types of information. As long as we're not showing 2 or more of those pieces of information, we're in compliance.
What's the one thing that someone's asked you for that is not right now fully ready to go, but you're thinking about putting it in development that came out of specifically this environment? Anything?
I would continue to say that the telehealth, telepresence, telenursing piece it is front and center right now. It is about providing the capability of providing care, improving patient outcomes, reducing readmissions, hand hygiene, all of the business drivers that actually have an ROI behind it in healthcare. So that's really, I think, where our efforts will be. I will tell you that, some of our goals are going to be around improving overall guest or patient satisfaction. I'm going to show, I brought a little prop. Anthony, if you were in a hospital, Jonas, I know that you were there recently. This is a nurse call pillow speaker. This is the methodology by which every patient in America seems to communicate. They press I'll call it the dumb red nurse call button. And what takes place, that nurse has to pick up that request and it has no context. It could be anything from I need a blanket to I've fallen and I need help getting up, and all points in between. So what we're going to be doing is displaying information that's going to be meaningful to the patient to be able to, for example, at 10 o'clock at night, show on the screen, ask the question, is it quiet enough for you to sleep? Simply yes or no. And if you answer yes, no, nothing's required. If you answer no, that sends that to the Quiet at Night team's initiative, so they can go and respond to that patient and do a service recovery model around that before they go out and tell statistically 11 people that it wasn't quiet enough for them to sleep at night.
And Ken, if you would please hold that prop up again one more time. I think it's important to point out that that pillow speaker interfaces seamlessly through a dedicated jack on our healthcare TVs. So that's one of the key differentiating factors for our healthcare product. That pillow speaker product interfaces with the TV, and that's one of the key differentiators that makes it a healthcare.
So what does that mean? I speak into it and what happens?
Yeah, so typically when you press the red nurse call button, you're getting a nurse at a nurse master station, and that's their job to play switchboard operator to find the right person within the organization to fill that request.
Or you can tune to CNN, tune to ESPN, turn the volume up and down, listen to the TV. All of those functions that don't require nurse interaction allow you to do that without having to use infrared or a traditional remote or have to get up from the bed.
Yeah, so in the future, though, we want to be able to provide that patient the ability to make those requests. For example, I want my room cleaned. Well, I'm not going to send that to the nurse. I'm going to send that to environmental services.
Right.
Or I want the temperature changed in my room. Well, I would send that to facilities. No longer does nursing need to get involved. So,
and also, Ken, talk a little bit, if you could, just quickly about patient education and using the ability to navigate that content using the pillow speaker interface, please.
Yeah, so it's part of a Joint Commission requirement. Joint Commission is a regulatory body over most of the healthcare facilities in America, that education must be provided to every patient about their particular procedure or condition. And being able to navigate on the on-screen display through the use of this nurse call pillow speaker about their particular care, about their particular procedure, their condition, is vitally important. And that information can be remitted back into the electronic medical record that was delivered and fulfilled. And oh, by the way, we can also take information from what's called the ADT system, admissions, discharge, and transfer system. And if you're a smoker, why wouldn't I, if you're my captive audience, play up a smoking cessation video? Or if I'm diabetic, nutritional information about how to care for yourself and how to eat better while in the patient environment.
Wow, that's pretty good, because a lot of times when you're in those scenarios and the medical professional is telling you what you need to do, you only hear a little bit of it, right? Because you're dealing with so much stress and pressure. It's great to be able to go back and review these things so you could be in a better position.
I had that situation happen with my surgery. Is I went to the doctor, wasn't expecting diagnosis. I had a flutter, and so I had to have a heart surgery. And I came home, and I remember having dinner with my very dear friend and my wife and his wife. And he said, "So what they say?" And I was like, "Be honest with you, I don't know. I know I need surgery, but I was by myself. I wasn't expecting diagnosis. I don't know." He got mad at me.
Yeah.
He's like, "You don't know?" They were. I was like, I literally, all I heard was, "I'm in the gym all the time. I'm a healthy guy. I have heart surgery." That's all I heard. So I came home. I go, "I have to have heart surgery." My wife goes, "Why?" I don't know, because I literally went blank.
So that educational content for most healthcare organizations also resides in their personal health record. So whether it's an Epic or a Cerner, whatever platform you're using for your personal health record information and communication, that will sit within that environment, and you can go and queue up that same content that you've had during the inpatient stay, during your post-discharge or return to wellness piece. So you're able to see it over and over and over for reinforcement.
So these types of use cases that, Ken, thank you very much. That's great detail. And I always find it interesting to listen to and learn a little bit myself about these use cases. But from a business perspective, I can tell you, and I think, Ken, you'll agree, if you walk the halls of senior living facilities, rehabilitative facilities, other non-hospital healthcare facilities, the utilization and deployment of technology that we just described is relatively low. Correct, Ken?
I would call it in the single digits.
All right. So my point there is that there's a business opportunity for those that can get engaged there. And the good news is that it's a real classic win-win. Everyone, the integrator wins, the patient wins, the facility operator wins, because they've got much better education, higher rankings, and the more educated, satisfied their patients are when they leave the facility, partly as a result of deploying this kind of technology, even the facility owner and operator can benefit as well. So it really is a great story here, and a huge untapped market.
Right. Stephen, it sounds to me like this is also a great opportunity for folks that are selling products such as Samsung in your community over there. It gives them a whole new opportunity and market to connect with.
It does. And just like you and your team and Anthony and everybody that's on your podcast, you're trying to look after the hotel workers and everybody else. Well, we're exactly the same with our manufacturers and our reselling community as well. We want to keep them in business. We want to find opportunities for them. And so this forum that you give us, Glenn, is fantastic. It shows them what opportunities are out there, and we just encourage them to reach out to their representatives at Elmo, and we'll try and help find a solution and drive other business while we go through a bit of a lull on the normal standard business we deal with.
Jonas?
I was just going to say the great thing about what Stephen just said is that, just looking at Samsung's portfolio, there are dozens of product that might actually be the right recommendation given the use case. It might be a healthcare TV, like what Ken was showing, to be compatible with a pillow speaker. It might be just a standard hospitality TV where pillow speaker interface is not necessary, or some other large format digital display, or an LED wall, or any of the above. It's a consultative process to understand what's the right technology. And the great news is that Elmo can help pull all that together. All right. They are a one source technology stop that can help, no matter what the right technology recommendation is, to bring together the product, the competitive pricing, the logistics, and so on to make that a good experience for the end.
Yeah, we just encourage people to bring their inquiry and we'll find the answer. We don't want people to have to run around trying to find out the information themselves. If we can tap into our resources, especially like Ken, for example, I've reached out to him a number of times, and because of his experience, he gives me an answer immediately that I can then pass on, to the integrator reseller at that point, rather than them scrambling trying to find the answer themselves. So use us as being able to find, hopefully, the answer for you.
Excellent. So, all right. So I guess let's find out how we find you guys. This has been a really interesting and an informative show. So, Ken, how can we find you? Yeah,
I'm at k.honeycutt@samsung.com. That'll be the best method to catch up with me.
And I'm going to guess you're Jay Tanenbaum at Samsung.com, right, Jonas?
No, actually, no. I've been around so long that the old email logic is a little bit different, but it's Jonas T. at SEA.Samsung.com. Jonas T. at SEA.Samsung.com.
That sounds like a wrestler's name. Jonas T.
Yeah. But I'm just gonna forward it to Ken probably anyway. So go to him. He knows more than I do.
That's cool, Stephen. Any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, just from my side, rather than pointing anybody to any one site, I think that for any folks that are on here that know us already and that work with us, please reach out to your account manager with any questions, and we'll certainly facilitate those questions, get an answer for everybody, and we look forward to helping people through these times and post-COVID as well.
It's been informative for me. I didn't know any of this existed, so thank you very much. It's been an education.
Right. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And we will see you again real soon. Anthony, I got to tell you, that was really interesting to me, learning all about the opportunities for investors, designers, sales folks. Everybody has a chance in hospitality to move relatively seamlessly to this healthcare phenomenon.
Well, I think, voice activation and touchless is everything. And I think it's not only in healthcare, it's not in hotels, it's everywhere. I mean, I think about like right now, why can't I go when I do my valet parking ticket at, a hotel in Atlantic City where I play poker?
Right.
Can't it just be on my phone? And I just show it to somebody, or I just, put it in front of something. We don't have to touch anything. There's no reason for me to ever have anything I need to touch, really, with the technology that's out there. So it was really, really helpful for me. I'm really, on one hand, I'm looking forward to our 3:00 conversation with Dr. Primus. On the other hand, I'm really kind of not, because it's not. It's going to be why we wanted Dr. Primus back on the show is, how do we go to keeping people safe, employees specifically, and guests when they come back to the hotel industry? And now that and a lot of the workers are still there, and then getting that news from the daily, that article I read this morning. I mean, it's really bone chilling. So he's going to give us some steps that hotels could really implement to try to keep their employees safe.
Right. Now, this is very different than what we've been talking about with the folks like Phil Cordell. The brands have their plans to keep things clean, but there are a lot of other issues that each and every one of us really need to consider as we start to get back to opening up, as we start to welcome guests wholehearted again. He's going to really give us that medical understanding to it, that yes, we get it with the brands doing their thing, but this is an essential conversation. 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time this afternoon, 2 hours from now. And if you can't make that, be sure to check out the resources. And one great place to get that show again is by texting the word hotel to 66866. You'll get our newsletter on Sunday with all of the great content, including these interviews that you're with today and this one this afternoon. Anthony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, please go to Hospitality Success on Facebook. We're hoteliers communicating with other hoteliers. It's free. It's our company, a consulting company's Hospitality Success. But right now we're online for free. Any questions, we're there. We're doing webinars, I believe, next Tuesday. We're doing a webinar. Again, I'm going to be talking about basically what we're talking about today and even more in depth in how to travel safely. So please go to our webinar. You can find all the information on hospitalitysuccess.com or on my Facebook page, Hospitality Success.
It's great to see the community you're building over there. So I highly encourage everybody to join Hospitality Success on Facebook because they're really interacting and helping each other solve problems in
our first
real
webinar.
time.
We had 300 people on the first webinar, and we didn't even really promote it.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So whose beard is better? Who's wearing it better?
Well, I'm always wearing it better. I'm definitely wearing my hair better.
All right, brother. Another great show.
All right, guys.
Very interesting.
Thanks for being here. Remember, guys, you've got one life, so blaze on. And thanks for checking in. See you back here in 2 hours.